You know, if you had told me last week that at No Surrender, in an arena full of Canadian smart marks, that the Prince Justice Jobberhood would get cheered and an AJ Styles match would get booed, I would have called you a liar. Man, this was a weird show. So let's just get the weird stuff out of the way first. Mick Foley never actually showed up, which kind of surprised me because they were teasing that he would, but if they're saving Mick's debut for Bound for Glory, that's probably not a terrible idea, so I was okay with that. For wrestling, first we had the ladder match, and regardless of how this angle has turned to crap beforehand, I told you guys that these two would deliver the goods, and they did. Lethal and Dutt delivered a hell of a ladder match, some really cool innovative spots here, and even SoCal Val's heel turn at the end, I think, kind of made sense within the context of this ridiculous storyline. And the reason I was okay with it was because ever since this match was first announced, Val had basically been acting like a heel even though they were still trying to portray her as a face. And having two men fight over which one gets to be with her, that's something that Angelina Love would do. I mean, because she's all, you know, I'm so great, I'm so beautiful, all men should fight over the chance to be with me, blah, blah, blah. You know, she's exactly the kind of character that would really get off on that type of thing. And to have a babyface Val doing this just didn't work. So turning Val heel was probably one of the better things that they could have done with this stupid situation that they'd created. And the ladder match was amazing. I mean, probably the best match of the night. Both guys busted their asses, and it's definitely worth getting the replay to see this. I'm not going to take away anything from the match itself, but I'll tell you what the problem is. Literally 10 minutes after it was over, I was like, so what? And you know why? Because I don't give a crap about ladder matches anymore because TNA has now put on 10 of them in the last 11 months. 10. There's a reason why people get so excited about the Money in the Bank match at WrestleMania every year. It's because that's usually one of maybe 2 times out of the whole year that you see ladders in a WWE ring. So the match always feels like an event. Shawn Michaels, Chris Jericho from Raw last Monday night, that's how you make a ladder match feel like a big deal. You don't get excited for a TNA ladder match anymore, and now it's like, who cares about ladder matches because you think they're just going to have another one in a couple of weeks. This is what happens when you overuse the gimmick match TNA. After a while, people just stop caring. So I appreciate the effort from the wrestlers, but the writers just shot themselves in the foot here with the counterproductive booking. And the next weird thing on this pay-per-view was AJ Styles and Frank Trigg, and here's what I don't get. You've let it be known that Frank Trigg has been training to wrestle in the event that you wanted to use him in an actual match. And when that day comes, you put him in there with AJ Styles, and then you have them do a worked MMA fight in a territory that has a long history of appreciating pro wrestling. I felt really bad for AJ here, and the crowd turned on this one big time. There were "We Want Wrestling" chants, "This is bullshit" chants, and I don't know how many Fire Russo chants the writers need to hear before they realize that they need to tone down gimmick match crap like this. I mean, it was partially redeemed when AJ went apeshit on Frank Trigg with a kendo stick afterward. That part was cool. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if the finish of this thing was rushed because the live crowd was pissing all over it. AJ and Frank Trigg made sense from a storyline perspective because they'd set it up for a few months, but this should have been a regular wrestling match because that's what people want to see when they order a wrestling pay-per-view. And then we had Prince Justice Jobberhood and the Rock and Rave Infection, just what we all expected here, your basic comic relief match. I didn't care about it, so let's just move on to the good stuff. ODB and Awesome Kong was a lot of fun. I felt bad for them when the table didn't break the first time, and it looked like Awesome Kong might have hurt herself there, but this was still an entertaining brawl. My favorite part, though, and this should come as no surprise to you by now, but my favorite part was when they talked up the fact that ODB tried to unmask Raisha Saeed 2 weeks ago. Because on last Thursday's Impact, during Kong's match with Roxy, I kept saying to myself, if they mention it, then it's an angle and they're unmasking her. If they don't mention it, then it might have just been a one-week thing. And they didn't mention it then, which pissed me off. But they did mention it during this match, which hopefully means that Melissa's time is coming. And then we had the women's title match. And anytime Kip James is on the screen, it automatically takes the segment down a notch. But this was still a good match. And I know some people are probably going to be pissed off that Angelina lost yet again. But TNA would have been idiots to put her over here, since her contract is up in about a month, I think. Hopefully the Gail Kim thing taught them a lesson as far as that goes. So if Angelina does re-sign with TNA, then I say it's time to crap or get off the pot with her. Either give her the Knockouts title at Bound for Glory, or stop pimping the beautiful people all over Impact and give their screen time to someone you actually intend to push. Then the X Division title match was very good, mostly due to P.D. Williams and Creed. They did a great job carrying the action, and I wouldn't mind seeing those two feud for a while longer. I really wish P.D. had gone over here, though. I mean, he's been the champ for months now, and to take the title off him when we're only a month away from Bound for Glory just felt like a mistake to me. I think the title change would have meant more if they'd saved it until then. But I do appreciate that they had a heel win without cheating for a change. I mean, we need to see more of that. The heels don't always have to cheat to win. I don't know about Bashir as the new champ, though. I mean, he is great on the mic, and he does have a charisma about him, I won't deny that, but I don't know what he's doing in the X Division because he doesn't wrestle X Division style. He wrestles WWE style. So I hope he proves me wrong. And then we had both tag matches. They were good. The Abyss Matt Morgan versus 3D match actually had one of the funniest moments of the whole show for me. It was when Matt Morgan tried to do Taker's old school move, and the crowd booed him, but then he turned it into a springboard crossbody, and they popped for it. Make up your minds, people. I don't know why I got such a kick out of that, but I did. You know, it was an impressive spot, too. I mean, Morgan's really agile for a guy his size. And the tag title match, it was, you know, just was good. It was just kind of passable for me. But partially because I think James Storm was working with a throat injury, so that probably might have taken it down a little bit. Anyway, the main event was a bit of a surprise. Apparently, Booker T didn't leave Texas on an earlier flight to avoid Hurricane Ike like Bashir and Hernandez did, so he got stuck there. And so they ended up making the main event a triple threat instead, which might have made the match better, in my opinion. I mean, no offense to Booker T, but Joe, Angle, and Christian can all work that fast-paced, high-risk style. And Booker T doesn't really work like that, at least not anymore. And we already know that these three guys work really great together, so the match didn't really lose a thing. And it was awesome, too. I mean, I said before that these guys were going to pull out all the stops, and they did. I think it was a choice between this and Lethal and Sanjay for best match of the night. And I think the only reason why the crowd seemed to kind of quiet down during this match was because everyone pretty much knew that Joe was going to win. But we already knew that before the show anyway, because they've been teasing Joe versus Sting at Bound for Glory for months. And I'm sure there's going to be some people bitching about that and you know, how it made the match so predictable or whatever. And I think that's kind of funny, actually, because nobody was bitching about how the Raw main event of WrestleMania was predictable when the Royal Rumble match came down to Cena on one side, Triple H on the other side, and the Mania logo in the middle. I mean, the second that happened, you knew those two were going to face off at WrestleMania, and they did. So I don't see how this was any different. When you build up a match for months, like TNA's been doing with Joe and Sting, you're going to see that match coming. Which means, from time to time, you're going to have main events like this one that are basically a placeholder for a more important match on a more important pay-per-view. And hopefully you understand that going in, and you're able to just enjoy it for the great match that it is. I told you guys that this show was gonna all be in the service of hyping Bound for Glory. That's what it was supposed to do, and that's what it did.